So Carson Price from the historic Wall Center. We are joined now by our NHL draft expert. He is the director of everything at Elite Prospects. He will be heading to Buffalo tomorrow for full coverage. He'll join us again Friday, Saturday as we go through the proceedings. Merry Christmas, Cam Robinson. I know this is the week you wait all year for, buddy.
I do. The energy is high. The sleep is little, but I'm feeling good on a Monday morning here. Yeah, this is fun. This is draft week. It's a sprint, and then it's off to the beach.
All right,
any general epiphanies as we embark on draft week? Have you felt any sea change just as you look at the class in general here? Any new thoughts?
I don't think I have any new thoughts on the players themselves. I have lots of thoughts on how this is going to shake out and how the public is perceiving some of these players versus how I think teams are perceiving these players. I put something out there this morning about Keaton Verhoff, where I think that his season has run kind of the roller coaster in the public and on the team side of things. That maybe he was a little overvalued early on. And I think that he is now significantly undervalued in the public sphere at the end here. Talking with people over the weekend, bugging people on Father's Day there yesterday, it's that I think he's still firmly in the mix for those top 4 or 5 spots. And I think a lot of people think that he's going to get pushed down to 7 or 8, which is possible, or even, closer to 10. But I think it's probably more likely we see him gone before pick 6.
Well, let me ask you this question. Carroll's, Verhoff, Reed, the top 3 consensus defensemen. Who's the meanest? Who's the meanest? Who's the toughest? Who is the quote-unquote not fun to play against guy?
Carson Karls. Yeah, he's got that physical edge. I wondered early on in the season, I was like, he's not small, of course, he's 6'1.5" or whatever. He'll get tagged at 6'2". If he'll have that advantage at the NHL that he has at junior right now, where he can still play the bully role, a good amount of the time when he wants to. I don't know if he'll be able to leverage that as much at the NHL, but I don't think that mindset goes away. You can be average size as an NHL defenseman at 6'2" and 210 or 205 or whatever, and you can still be mean out there, and I think he will be at times.
Okay, let's play this out, my friend. We anticipate Gavin McKenna goes first overall to the Leafs.
Yeah.
Is that fair? We can just put that? Okay.
Yeah, I feel good about that.
Okay. What are you thinking on San Jose right now? This has been the big question since they won the lottery and jumped up to number 2, second straight year. You tell me, where do you think San Jose goes at 2?
I honestly, I wish I could give a more definitive answer. I'm actually going on a San Jose podcast literally right after this show, and they're going to ask me the same thing, and I don't have a good answer for you. I think it could go one of 3 ways, 2 more likely than the other. I think Stenberg is, if I'm weighting it, I think it's slightly edged towards the Swedish winger. I think right there with him is Chase Reed. And I think that there's an outside chance that it's a kid like Carson Karls or even Keaton Verhoff. I think that if they wanted to go that way, I think the Verhoffs maybe just got that percentage point in there still. But I had someone tell me, and I mocked him, Karls to San Jose early, back, at the beginning of this month or even late May.
I remember.
And I think they like Carson Karls. I think a lot of teams really like Carson Karls. So I don't think that he should be out of the equation there at number 2. But again, I'll reiterate. I think it's Stenberg just by a hair over Reed at this point. But again, that's on vibes, that's on gut, that's on talking to people outside of the San Jose organization.
Well, there's it's obviously lying season. There's a lot of material out there, but there was a line of thought on the weekend that the Canucks with Malhotra is just all smoke. They are just all throwing teams off the trail, that they very much like either Ivar Stenberg or one of those defensemen at 3.
So it's too bad I didn't get this when I was talking to you guys last week. So I had it and I put it out on my podcast there too, is that I had, it was not that it was all smoke, that it was more coming from the Malhotra camp. And I'm not saying that's Manny. I'm just saying that generally feeling that, maybe it's best for the kid to chart his own path, to not just have that discourse kind of hanging around, even if it wouldn't be negative. Yeah. Just that's a part of his story now, is playing for his dad. What's dad say? How's father-son breakfast going? Just to get rid of all that, maybe it's best that he goes somewhere else. And I think that's very reasonable. If that's what the family wanted, I think the organization would look at that and be like, Yeah, because it's a tier. It's not like he's the best player and then there's a big gap and you're like, well, sorry, son, you're going to come because you're the best player available. I think that there is enough separation there that you're not very much separation there that you can feel good about going 2 or 3 different ways.
That doesn't put the Canucks rebuild back at all if they skip past the center.
No, because they're supposed to be taking their time. They're supposed to be taking their time. They don't need to fill a organizational need at this very moment. You can just take a good player. So if that's the best right shot defenseman that's available, if it's Chase Reed, if it's Keaton Verhoff, who again, I think there are factions in the organization that really, really like Keaton Verhoff at number 3 there, a big right shot defenseman. Reed's another big right shot defenseman. Is it Carl's? Is it another left shot defenseman, right? Like you can go that way, or Stenberg might be sitting there waiting for you, and then it's kind of a layup too. You just take the most offensively gifted forward sitting there.
There's so let me ask this. Sorry, Blake. Let me ask this. If Carl's is the meanest and the toughest, is it also fair to say that Carl's has the highest floor of the 3 defensemen? The most likely NHLer of the 3, the least bust potential of the 3?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. He has the skating, he has the snarl, he has the offense. I think that there's potential for all, for Verhoff or for Reed to end up being better, like pure defenders than him, but he could absolutely be the best defender of the bunch too. Like, I think at that level, they're all pretty similar. Offense, I give the edge to Reed, but generally speaking, I would say that across the board, his tools are the highest. And yeah, so that would give him the highest floor and the least. I don't think any of them are going to bust on a scale of not being NHLers, but one might end up being a first pair, one might end up being second pair, and one might end up being a third pair. Like that could happen too.
Mm-hmm. The Brady Tkachuk trade has a chance to percolate through the Canucks just a little bit. First of all, they've got draft capital now that they may want to spend on roster players. We'll get to that in a second. But more importantly, and I'm getting into the debate with a lot of people, is the drafting of an American player. Is that going to be a tiebreaker for the Canucks if they are given the opportunity of Reed versus Carroll's or Verhoff? There's been enough sample size in the top 10. People are like, oh, so you just never draft an American. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about guys that are going to be the superstars that are going to be able to dictate terms for the rest of their careers. That's top 10 draft picks, most likely. So that's what we're talking about. And in the last decade now, there's a lot of examples of these players asserting their will. What do the Canucks do with that information? And yes, I know Reed plays major junior in Canada, as many people have pointed out, but a lot of hockey played in Canada for Quinn Hughes as well.
I think we're at the point where it wasn't that long ago where teams had these legitimate conversations about Russians. Right. And remember the peak of the Russian fear back in 2011, where it was dangerous to pull them out, or you can go back to the 80s where it was suicide to draft them until it wasn't. So I think it would be naive to believe that Canadian teams weren't having those discussions at this point. They're absolutely going to have those discussions, and you're going to talk to the kid and you're going to talk to the family and you're going to try to get as good a picture as you can. It's going to play a role. I'm not going to say it's going to play a role for Vancouver at pick number 3 if it comes down to Chase Reed or Carson Carls or Stenberg or Malhotra or whoever it is. They're going to be like, he's American, we're not going to do it. I don't think that we're at that point yet, but it has to be a conversation that's going to start coming up more and more as these players decide to leave Canadian franchises, especially ones that are wearing the C, which is like, it shouldn't change anything that much, but it does. When you're a captain and you're requesting a trade to get out of Canada, like that's the peak of a trade request. So yeah, I do believe that those conversations are going to be had, and maybe they will impact draft boards to a degree.
Yeah, and it's funny, Blake, you can say high picks, but Alex DeBrincat wasn't a high pick. He's already moved on. There's talk Jason Robertson. The Senators would like to use some of this draft capital on Jason Robertson, but American player who apparently, according to Chris Johnson, would not be willing to sign an extension there. Even with his partner from his partners from down the road in Kingston, and apparently that's still not enough for Robertson to consider the Senators. I saw you tweeting about super teams as well, Cam. The NHL era of super teams is it like NBA style super teams? Is that what you foresee as an offshoot of all this? The end game, the end product?
I think we're already starting to see it. I think we're starting to see it already. It's that, it might not be as upfront and like, hey, in the offseason, let's get together, let's all go sign in this one team. But we're seeing the handful of teams. We're seeing Florida, Vegas, and now Minnesota, which, good for Minnesota. They've been struggling for 30 years to try to get talent. So now all of a sudden they can. That's fine. But we're going to see these guys pick destinations. I'm sure we're going to see Tampa Bay be involved in that again. It's going to be, they're looking for destinations where I can swim every day. I can go to the rink in flip-flops. That's great. The anonymity of everything when you're playing in most of those places, minus Minnesota, and the tax, right? But it's also that these teams are being like, we're going to go out and we're going to spend every first-round pick we've ever drafted in the last 10 years to go get you and to go get you help because we want to win championships now. And a lot of these players, like a Dylan Larkin, like a Quinn, they don't get many opportunities to go to the playoffs and actually legitimately try to win a cup. A career short. I don't blame these guys for doing it. I know a lot of people think it's going to be terrible for the game, and it might not be great for the game overall, but I don't blame them for doing it. And I think we're going to see it happen more and more and more. You look, Zach Werenski's got 2 years left. I think Jack Hughes, we see Connor Hellebuyck's name out there. You're going to just start to see these guys as they start to get closer to 30 without cups. They're going to want to win a cup. Let's go play with our buddies that we just won gold with. Yeah. It makes sense.
Has Chase Reed spoken about playing in Canada? Was he asked that at the Combine? Do we have any inclination other than he went and played Major Junior in Sault Ste. Marie, how okay he would be with spending, the first however many years of his career in Canada?
So, Blake, I actually saw you getting into it there on Twitter this morning. I don't know if they're from yesterday or not, but it came off my feed. And so I was like, I bet you. So I threw a text to his agent, but, jokingly said at the same time, like, I can guess what the answer is going to be. And I haven't heard back. It was like half an hour ago. So we know what he's going to say, right? It's going to be a thrill and honor wherever I get selected. And I look forward to, making that place my home and building towards winning a Stanley Cup one day. There, I can repeat his tweet or his text that I haven't got back yet. So you're never going to get a straight answer from these guys at this point. It's just not realistic. But you don't know. There are American players who extend long term. Lane Hudson just extended with Montreal, right? Cole Caulfield. There are examples of guys. I think if you put them in a culture, in a situation that is looking like it's building the right way, you're going to keep talent. I do believe that if you're doing things the right way, you're going to keep your talent regardless of their passport.
Yeah. And, as we talked about earlier in the show, there could well be a distinction between Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and the other 4 Canadian markets, although which side of the ledger is Vancouver on? They've just had an American captain request to trade and not want out of here. But, of course, part of that was because the organization was such a dysfunctional shit show with horrible ownership and management. Some tells me if you improve the ownership and management, people, even Americans, would be. I mean, did we ever hear boo out of the American players who are a part of the core here? I mean, Chris Higgins still lives here to this day, loves it. A Long Island guy, right? So, anyways.
For a long time, this was the most American team in the National Hockey League.
I was going to say.
It still is to some degree. I mean, still is. I mean, it's still chock-a-block with American players on this team. Okay, buddy, let's move on. We often hear it's going to be a hot trade market. We are often disappointed. But wow, we're out of the gate here since the Cup final. 7-8 trades, including the Florida-Ottawa blockbuster. But let's not overlook how Florida gets the draft capital to make that trade in moving Mackie Samoskevich to the Seattle Kraken for a first-round pick, 25th overall, and a future second-rounder. Holy cow, does it look like a seller's season, Cam? What do you think Jake DeBrusk is worth in this environment?
I thought DeBrusk was just the way things are going. I was like, you might be able to get yourself a late first-round pick for him. And now I'm like, you might be able to get something in the teens if somebody really wanted him, or maybe you get that late first plus you get a later second or something like that. Mackie Samoskevich is young, and that plays a big role in this, right? There is potential for growth. Right now, if you look at it at face value, when I first looked at it, I was like, that's an overpay for Mackie Samoskevich for what he has shown so far, but you're buying potential. I don't love what Seattle's doing generally, just loading up on top 9 forwards without star potential. But with DeBrusk, he's past that cusp. You're not looking for an evolution in his game. You're looking for stability in his game. And you're like, can we get 25-25 out of him? And if you can, and if you believe that, that's a player you want. That's a valuable player at his price tag. It's not a terrible contract by any means, especially with the way contracts are going right now. So, I saw Portsline. He floated the idea of Columbus looking at him for what they're picking 14. Maybe 14 would be on the table. Portsline is very well connected at that front office. So if he's saying it, there's a pretty good reason that somebody's mentioned it. So that perked my interest there. I think if they can pull it off, they could get something like that, a mid first or a late first and a late second or a third or something on top.
Ottawa goes shopping with their newfound draft capital, right? Like they've got all these picks now. Like they're not rebuilding or retooling. They're just going to use these, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to do exactly what Rutherford did there with all those first of the age. I expect it's going to go quick. Like I fully expect them to move some of those picks or all those picks like this week. And that's what we're hoping for. That's what we're expecting them to do. I think it would be unwise for them to take that Brady Tkachuk return and be like, look at these 18-year-olds we have. I don't think that's not going to be worth it without getting a roster player. You simply have to get a roster player. Maybe they hold on to 9. 9's a good pick, and maybe they parlay and they use some other stuff, and then they're like, that's what we actually got for Brady, and it's then whatever we pick at number 9.
Yeah, Ottawa 9, 25, and 32. Remember, 32 is locked in because of NHL stipulations. In terms of reestablishing that pick for the Senators, it had been penalized because of a no trade clause violation. Ottawa, without a second rounder, they have 72 overall. It's a third-round pick, although with 32, Blake and I were wondering last week, can they just draft a player for somebody? Like, could somebody say, oh, we like so-and-so at 32? Oh, we draft 32, and then can you trade the rights later? I don't know what the NHL would say about that, but that would seem to be a loophole
circumvention.
Workaround. So look, they have 3 picks in the first round. Vancouver, of course, with 4 picks in the top 41, not to mention many picks thereafter. But Cam, let's look at that those first 4 picks, because let's face it, everything after that is very much long shot territory in terms of becoming a National Hockey Leaguer. Those final 6 picks the Canucks have. What is a reasonable expectation for 4 picks in the top 41? How many NHL players should they get out of 4 in the top 41?
NHL players, you want to get 2. You want to get 2 guys that play more than dozens of games, right? I think 2 legitimate NHLers out of it is a win. 3 is awesome. 4 is legendary. How about that? I'm talking about real players here.
Yeah. 400 games, something like that, right?
Yeah. Proper
Minimum.
NHLers.
And do you like the pickings? Do you like the depth of the class starting at 24 with that second pick through 41?
No, I don't. I think that there's, I think you're at 24. You're already at B level prospects. I think you're in a good year. I don't feel great about taking them in the first round, and I probably feel that way by 22, maybe 21, 22. You're like, okay, these are guys that I would consider day 2 guys on a strong year, but they're going to go in the first round this year. But that doesn't mean you can't get NHL players out of them, right? Like there's still going to be value there. There's going to be guys who develop quickly next year. So the key is to find the right ones there. So yes, there's certainly opportunity. You want it to be 2015 where all of a sudden it's Sebastian Aho early on day 2 and not someone who's never going to sniff NHL.
Let's frame it like this. When does the second round actually begin for you? Like what pick is a traditional second round pick? Are we
Might
talking
be 24, right on the nose, but you tell me, Cam.
2024, something like that?
Yeah, I'm pulling up my list here.
We put Cam's list up, Mike. I know we had it earlier, but here is Cam's rankings. He has the big defenseman Sokolowski we talked about last week as his 24 on the number.
You know what? As we're looking at this, I'd say it's probably Hermanson. It's probably 25. I think he's still an A- prospect, I think he's still an A- prospect. So right there, Vancouver, you're good. You're good.
Hey, listen, you're joining us Friday, Saturday, and this is going to be like a Canucks Super Bowl, okay, Cam? Because everybody walks away from the draft as a winner. So you get all your negative Nancy stuff out of the way here early in the week. When we talk Friday and Saturday, we're turning Oliver Suvanto into the next coming of Alexander Barkov, okay?
I'll love it. I'll love that. Yeah. Well, maybe not. But I will hype up Suvanto if they take him, just because I do like the kid.
Well, let's get to him, because we've been looking at prospects.
Bring lots of lipstick.
That's right.
Bring lots of lipstick. These are going to be beautiful.
That's right.
No getting radioed this year, boys.
They're going to be washed. They're going to smell great. Suvanto, we're looking at players for 24th overall. We've been doing this with Cam for months. This is our last opportunity at it. And boy, there was a time where some people thought Suvanto would be like, if not a top 10, a 10 to 15 in that range. He's a big left shot defensive centerman cut out of the, well, if not the Barks off the Anton Lundell mold. They're producing a lot of these types over in Finland. I see you have him ranked. Where'd you have him, Cam? 18th, something like that? But possibility falls to the Canucks at 24. Talk to me about Suvanto.
Yeah, so as we said, like, he could still go in the early teens, just because he is a very big center in a class that is lacking on centers, and he's very, very young. You had it up there, September 3rd birthday, right? So he's less than 2 weeks shy from being in the 27 class, and that gives potential. Now he's obviously filled out, with his maturity, 6'3" and a bit, and already walking around at 215. I've said it before, is that he hasn't produced enough recently, right? You have to go back. You can see right there to the U20 there with Tapera, and otherwise, he played in the Liga this year. It's hard to put up points, but then he got dropped down to the U20 in the playoffs and didn't put up points. He played in the U20s for World Juniors, and it's like, he's super young. He played a good role, but didn't put up any points. That's cool. Played at the U18s, also didn't do all that great and put up that many points. So you want to see more offense from him to really project as a second line center, but as a third line center, as a floor, as a fourth line center, as secure as they come. I wish he had better feet. I will say that. I think his skating is just a hair below average, probably. But man, he is a load to handle the net front. He gets off the wall. He's proactive with his physicality. He's got a good stick. He's got a good mind. He's a good player. He just probably doesn't move the needle offensively.
And lastly, at this pick, another young centerman, and this young man seems to have some helium. I see you have him ranked as a first rounder. Now, Cam, look, the stats don't jump off the page for Ryder Cowley with the North Bay Battalion of the Ontario Hockey League. He's even younger than Suvanto, Cam. September 6th, so he missed being a 2027 draft guy for what, a week or 9 days away. Talk to me about this kid, Ryder Cowley, who seems to have quite an interesting background. That's Swiss-born?
Yeah, Swiss-born. I think he played in the Cayman Islands for a hot minute too when he was a little kid, if I'm recalling correctly.
As one does.
Yeah, as one will, as you will, right? I came around on Cali later than a lot of people. At the U18s, I was just waiting. I was like, come on, you're big, you're strong, he skates well. He's pretty fast, actually, I would say. He just wasn't doing much. And I went back after the season and caught up with some old tape on his, and I was like, all right, I actually can see the offensive flashes here. And so, he was under a point a game this year, which is to be expected as a rookie coming into the season, as a really young player. That doesn't bother me too much. But he's big, he's fast, he's super young for the class. And I think that he uses his power to close gaps quickly. I think he's, again, really proactive with his physicality, really difficult to handle. I'm expecting him to take a significant step offensively. He's a tricky one for me. I actually think he could be one of those guys that goes later in round one or even on day two, that in a year we're like, that guy should have gone earlier.
Let me ask you this. We've brought up the late birthdays before. In one sense, you get the logic. You've got, you're super young. You're getting this person way earlier. You got to take all their stats with a grain. Educationally, when you've got to play a person with a late birthday, they can sometimes get bogged down by the fact that they're always trying to chase people in their age group that are a year older, a year wiser, all that sort of thing. Is there any sense of how that plays out in sports and in hockey in particular, where, you theoretically have the extra year runway, but do you just get compared to your contemporary group, and do you get weighted down by them ultimately?
I don't know if you get weighted down. Malcolm Gladwell will tell you that the most successful people
That's
are
right.
all born in the first 3 months of the year. I do think that there's a caveat there. And we see a lot of those, and we've talked about it at youth hockey, the kids that are born in January and February versus the kids that are born in August, which are still in that birth year, or September, in that draft year, I should say. They're bigger, they're stronger, they usually get their skills. So now all of a sudden they're making teams. So they're getting better coaches, they're getting better skills. So the fact that some of these young guys are actually in that position tells you what you need to know about their skill level when they were young too. I think that it's like, hey, these were good. These were good players when they were young, even though they're 9-10 months younger than some of their kids in their own age bracket. As far as what you get at this point in time is I think it's a double-edged sword, because there's all that push. It's like, hey, if we drafted players at 19, we would have a better book on them. We would know what they're going to be a little bit better, and there'd be far fewer misses. So when you draft someone like a Gavin McKenna or a Stenberg, who are 2007 borns, you know more about those players. We know we've seen that year of progression. We've seen where it got to, and we're closer to understanding the player. But it's like the magic box over here, right? It's like, this kid's born in September. Early September, it could be anything. It could even be a boat, right? Like, so it's a little bit of risk attached to it, but there is a payoff too. There is a payoff.
Yeah.
Just so long as it's not a barnyard animal. And if it is, it better be a pig with lipstick, at least
There
this
you
year,
go.
because that's what we're hunting. Cam Robinson, you're amazing. We thank you for this. We look forward to talking to you Friday after the Canucks make their 3rd overall selection. If they make their 3rd overall selection. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Just stop it. Just stop
They're
it.
making that pick.